I remember one day my wife walked in and I was fully clothed in a suit, curled up in the fetal position in the shower, like because in that 1 3-hour window on every part of my life, I'd gotten seriously bad news. Like it was like a major client just pulled out and now we have no money to make payroll that week. And the tax office decided to reevaluate a previous thing. And suddenly I was an extra $500,000 in debt. Like it was 5 or 6 things. I had really bad news from a family member who just ended up in hospital. Another one that just got a life-threatening disease. Like it was just, and she walked into like, honey, are you okay? I'm like, not really. But then getting up out of that, and deciding, okay, well, what's one thing that I could do to, I don't know, get like cause over the situation and do something? And I sat at my desk and I just couldn't move. I just couldn't do anything. And I looked down and I saw that there was a piece of paper that was slightly off angle. So I reached over and I just squared that up a bit.
Welcome to the Eighth Gear Podcast. I'm Joe Ferracci, along with my co-host,
Sabran Walker, and today we have our special guest, Mikel Lindsaar. And Mikel, I want you to introduce yourself, but this man is a pure entrepreneur, building companies, selling companies, a lot to share with it today. But Mikel, why don't you give us your own introduction?
Thanks, Sabran. So Mikel Lindsaar, hello everyone, and hello guys. Yeah, I guess I've been referred to as a serial entrepreneur. So in the last 15 years, I've started 7 companies, which anyone can sort of start 7 companies. That's quite possible. You could start 7 and fail at each one and start another one. But I've started 7 companies and successfully sold 4 of them, which is not normal, I guess. So that's been good. And yeah, nice. So currently I own 3 companies. I'm running one specifically. I've got the other 2 with CEOs and they're managing that. But yeah, we're growing the businesses and taking it to the next level.
How do you build multiple companies at the same time? I mean, I've heard of like building 2, but you just said you're building 7.
3. I built 7.
Built 7.
Sold 4. I have 3 left.
3 left.
Yeah. You need to be mildly insane. I actually think that's a trait of an entrepreneur, because if you have the definition of sanity would be everyone agreeing on a current reality, right? If everyone's looking at one thing and we all go, yeah, there's a beige carpet on the floor. But if I start screaming that it's red and it's lava, you're all going to think that I'm a bit insane. But really, that's what an entrepreneur is doing, right? You're sitting there going, I'm putting a company in place and this is the vision of what I'm creating and no one else can see that yet. So you have to be a little bit crazy.
Outside the box.
You have to be outside the box to be an entrepreneur. And I really think that's the definition of an entrepreneur because you can earn money in so many different ways. And you have to have that, crazy streak.
We had a great conversation with a serial entrepreneur out of California who was talking about the 10 points. I remember you talked about grit and persistence, and he broke down, wasn't it 10 points he broke down? I mean,
there were several characteristics required.
Several.
Totally.
And insanity probably was.
Sanity's part of it. Yeah.
He probably had a different word for it. What would you have? Like, what are some of the particular words which you would pull out of like a list like that?
Grit, absolutely. Persistence is probably the biggest one. You have to utterly back yourself and know that no matter what, you can make it work. I remember one day my wife walked in and I was fully clothed in a suit, curled up in the fetal position in the shower, like, and because in that 1 3-hour window, everything like on every part of my life, I'd gotten seriously bad news. Like it was like a major client just pulled out and now we have no money to make payroll that week. And the tax office decided to reevaluate a previous thing. And suddenly I was an extra $500,000 in debt and this and this and this, like it was 5 or 6 things. I had really bad news from a family member who just ended up in hospital, another one that just got a life-threatening disease. Like it was just, and she walked into like, honey, are you okay? I'm like, not really. But then getting up out of that and deciding, okay, well, what's one thing that I could do to, I don't know, get like cause over the situation and do something? And I sat at my desk and I was sitting, I remember vividly, I got exactly the clouds outside, the whole lot. And I'm sitting at my desk and I just couldn't move. I just couldn't do anything. And I looked down and I saw that there was a piece of paper that was slightly off angle. So I reached over and I just squared that up a bit. And that was all of the production that I could do, right? And once I'd done that, I then tidied another part of my desk and, okay. And then I kept doing that for about half an hour, just getting my life a little bit more in order and just forcing myself to do the next thing. And
I
then
think
finally I could answer an email.
That is so relatable to people. I think, like, it isn't that a successful entrepreneur like yourself,
It's not all glory.
who is sitting here in front of us, having sold 4 companies, have 3 more right now, and yet you are in that kind of position.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, you know, there's this survivor bias, or people look at successful people and they go, oh, they're successful because of some random
they're
thing.
rich,
They look good, or they're
look
rich, or they dress right, or they know the right people. But the vast majority of entrepreneurs out there, except maybe trust fund entrepreneurs, you know, which is a little different, but they have their own pressures. You know, they're expected to succeed way above expectation because of all of their stresses, right? But still, the amount of work that you have to put into it and getting up every morning, regardless of what's happening. You know, I've had the situation where you've got investment confirmed, everyone's happy, all the handshakes are done, and at the 11th hour, boom, it gets pulled, and now suddenly you're 4 days from bankruptcy. You know?
So that's my question for you, because for those listening, they're thinking all it requires is persistency and grit. At what point does someone say, this business doesn't work? Like, you're so caught up. One could be so easily caught up in their ego, right? Saying this is such a brilliant idea. I just got to be persistent. But how does one decipher between that and then getting to a reality check and saying, this isn't working? I've got to like set this aside and move on to the next idea.
One of my favorite quotes is, there's no such thing as failure. There's just giving up. So failure is the excuse we give ourselves to stop trying. And I don't know that there is that point. If you know the fundamentals of the business are correct, and that you can produce something for less than it costs, and that there is a market to purchase that thing, then you might have made a whole bunch of bad decisions. You might be forced into a bankruptcy or forced into a situation where you can't proceed. But really, at the end of the day, it's up to you if you want to fail or not. And it's a brutal datum. Like, it's so in your face that it's 100% on you as the entrepreneur. And I think that's probably, if you wanted to know what's the most senior trait that a really good entrepreneur needs, it's probably responsibility, in terms of, no matter what gets screwed up underneath me, it's my job to make it happen correctly, and it's my job to fix it. And if that means one day you're working 24 hours straight, then one day you're working 24 hours straight. You know?
So why are the numbers so staggering, right? I mean, I don't know exactly what the stats are
In terms of failures?
but like small business, 80%, 85%,
probably 95,
it's something,
I'd say.
it's something outrageous. So why are the numbers so staggering?
Because people go into it not realizing what it actually takes. So people go into it going, I've got my 9-to-5 job. I've been earning money. The boss is driving a nice car. It must be really easy. They've never actually been to the boss's house when he's trying to pay the creditors and has no money and has to take out a loan against. Like during COVID, for example, we mortgaged our house to the tune of $500,000 on an interest-only loan so that I could keep paying my staff and not lay anyone off over that 12-month period, right?
See, that's real life right there.
And none of my staff knew. They just kept getting the paycheck.
Right.
Right? And we're still paying that loan.
Oh, yeah. What is the lifestyle, like the personal lifestyle of Mikel while you're building 4 companies? Like what? Like
well, 3 now.
Okay, 3 now. No, but you were building 4. Like, let's look at the past. People think when you're watching television that you probably had a country club, you were playing golf on, on Wednesday,
No.
having drinks with your buddies each evening.
Sounds like you started off with no sleep.
You had 4 if you had 4 companies, that was your lifestyle. Okay, tell us what it really was.
I think my dad had a fantastic saying. He goes, when you're your own boss, you have the total and utter freedom to choose exactly which 80 hours a week you want to work. And it's such a perfect
That's
quote.
a great way to put it.
That's how
it really encapsulates the truth of entrepreneurship. People think you don't have a boss, but suddenly you go from having one boss to having every client as a boss.
Right.
And you have to work out how to build yourself out of that business model. So, I mean, my life still, right now I live in Australia and I'm building US sales for one of my companies, Store Connect, which is like e-commerce and point of sale built on top of Salesforce. So it's very, very powerful. Fantastic product, really taking off. But I need to do all the USA sales. So every day, 6 days a week, I'm up at 4 to 4:30 a.m. I start my first sales call at about 5. The USA finishes about lunchtime, 2 o'clock, my time. During that period, I'm also doing all the Australian operations. And then occasionally, my sales team in Australia book me in for a phone call with London, which is at 9 p.m., which might finish at 10. And then I'm in bed so I can get 7 hours sleep before the next morning, right? Or six and a half,
you're
7.
going. You're going.
But the trick is, and here's the thing, it's not all work. Because what's the point of work if you can't have the other nice things in life? So I will purposefully block out hours each day to be with my daughter, with my wife. I walk 5 kilometers every day.
Love that.
I've done that for the last year.
Wow.
That takes an hour to walk 5 kilometers.
Okay.
And people say, well, when do you do that? Like my staff just have well, I just fit it in. I'll take a half hour. I know I'll be on a meeting where my presence is required, but not a lot of my input is required. Like we all have those meetings where you have to be there and you might say 3 words, but you sort of have to be there. So I'll do that without video and I'll go walk for half an hour. So
it's an earbud.
Huh?
Like you have an earbud in?
Yeah, I have an earbud in.
You're listening in. You could say something if you
I need to. Yeah, but I get in half of my 5 kilometer walk. And I've done that 5 kilometer walk every day for the last, I think it's 300 days, and every day. Birthday, Christmas,
Amazing.
New Year's. I remember one time I was flying back from America and you lose a day on the flight because of the time zone shift. I'm like, how do I get in my 5K? So I'm in Dallas airport. Okay. And I just did 5K in the airport, right? So that I'd get that in and actually just make it happen.
Gosh.
Way to go. That's persistence.
But that's, I think, part of where entrepreneurship comes into it, right? You have to be willing to put yourself outside of your comfort zone and keep doing the thing, whatever that thing is. And me walking every day, it's 5K walking a day, or if I don't walk, I have to run 5K. So it's one of those 2 choices. They're my choices.
Yeah.
There's no other choice. My wife once said, why don't, it's really late and it's raining outside, and it was pissing with rain, we call it in Australia, and it was cold. It was like 4 degrees Celsius, so whatever that is in Fahrenheit, like minus 300 or something. I don't know. It was just ridiculous. And she's like, you really want to go out in that? I'm like, no. She's like, well, why don't you row? We've got a rowing machine. Why don't you just do an hour of rowing? I said, it's not the point. I committed to this. I'm going to make it happen. So, yeah.
Commitment was
that
another
entrepreneurial mindset.
Commitment was another word.
Yeah, and you have to commit. You have to commit to yourself and your own ability to do it.
I know 10 years ago when I started Walker Creative and I left being a VP marketing in a corporate job, 100%, I wanted the freedom to be my own boss. I didn't fully understand all of what it would be.
Yeah.
But it is exactly what you said. It's which 80 hours.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're going to work your ass off.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be, clients that want to talk at 11 o'clock at night, especially if they're in a different time zone.
And they just book you in.
Yeah. But you get to set some of the rules.
Absolutely.
And take your freedoms.
Absolutely. And with big risk comes great reward.
Yeah.
So it's also another trait of an entrepreneur, I think, is loneliness. Because again,
I've heard that many times, by the way, by very successful entrepreneurs. It's
because who do you talk to?
Yeah.
Like if you're having a real problem in the business, do you talk to your investors? Maybe, because like maybe you want to get more money out of them, and then if you're telling them all the problems, maybe they don't want to give you any more investment. You can't talk to your clients, obviously, your staff, or you don't want to seed or sow fear or doubt or uncertainty. Your spouse, well, you don't really want to explain to her how close you are to losing the house, and like it becomes a really interesting mix. And that's where having, like, if there is an entrepreneur out there and you're wondering, this is too stressful and what can I do? My number one pick would be go for a walk every day. Just get out of the house, get out of the computer, don't wear your earpods, don't look at your phone, don't take your phone ideally, and just go look. And just walk around and look at different things and just refresh yourself. And that, I think, has probably been the most powerful thing I've done
That's such great advice.
Yeah.
And it's so simple and it's free.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been building a real estate fund, and there's so much truth to what you're saying. It's to a certain extent, it feels like a lonely world. But going out for a walk, I've done that before, which is why I can relate. It clears the mind.
That's
and
right.
you feel refreshed, because I'm not going to go home and talk to my wife and kids about that. It is lonely to a certain extent.
And also,
It's lonely.
a lot of the problems that you want to talk to someone about are usually very transitory anyway. They're not going to matter tomorrow because you've solved it. And so why gum up that part of your life,
Yeah.
It is 100%, because if you internalize it and you do the walk or some way of getting out of the problem for a little while.
Yeah.
You
and
end
gets
up,
it out of your head.
I've experienced that.
Yeah.
And so many times where you've gone out and you end up solving it, and you realize, if I would have shared the problem, it would have just either upset the wife or confused an executive team member.
That's right.
Because now they're worried about it.
Yeah.
And you need them focused on production.
That's right.
So it is lonely. You have to keep it in.
You do. And, a lot of people, I think there's a lot of bad advice out there, which is, share all of your problems with everyone. I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
Nah.
it's your whole job as an entrepreneur, really, when you look at it that way, is to contain the confusion. The business will create confusion. Now, you solve confusion through a number of methods, and one of them is writing policy in your company, and another one is keeping track of the metrics, and another one is making sure you have a chart of who does what in the business, and that's part of why we built MetaPulse, one of my products. But, if you can put those things in more and more and more, things sort out and they calm down, and you get this sanity spread through the organization.
So on that point, share with the audience, if you're building a company, what are some of the basics that you've designed? You've actually created companies around these things.
Yeah, so I actually built MetaPulse.com, so METAPulse.com. I built it as the world's first growth management system, so GMS. And I built it because the product didn't exist for me to build my other companies. And I started building these businesses one by one, and I was keeping spreadsheets and Google Docs and Word documents on shared drives and all this sort of stuff, all the policy. And someone would come to me as a staff member and say, hey, how do I do blah? And I'm like, oh, it's in a policy that I wrote. And then I'd spend 15 minutes looking for the damn policy and send it to him. But by that time you go, screw it, I'll just do it myself. And that screws you up, because now you're forever doing that job, because now you've taken that job off that person. So,
And Mike, are you the one writing all these policies and procedures, by the way?
mostly. So initially, in the beginning, 100%. So there's a really good rule that I have in the company is, if anyone in my company asks me how to do something, like via an email, hey boss, blah, 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 right? How do I do blah? First off, never solve a problem for anyone who works for you. Like, just never. Just never, never, never.
That's great advice.
If someone comes to you with a problem, and my staff now know better, right? But the first thing that I'll reply is, how do you think we should solve it? Now, they're
Asking
like, I don't know,
questions.
that's why I asked you.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, yeah, but that's why I pay you. How do we solve it? And they'll come back with a proposal. Now, you don't have to accept that proposal. You might say, no, I don't know about that. Think harder, right? So you keep sending it back to the junior, unless the building's on fire and you've got to fix it. I mean, fine, right? But in a matter of course business, you keep putting that back onto the junior.
You're training them to be problem solvers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because
Love
if you solve
Love
it,
it.
if you solve it as the boss and it goes wrong, whose fault is it? The boss.
Yeah.
If you solve it and it goes really, really right, who takes the credit? Well, the junior. So from a boss's point of view, you're in a lose-lose situation, right?
Mhm.
Because if you solve it and it goes right, the junior takes the credit. And now the junior knows that next time there's a problem, send it to the boss. So you're breeding irresponsibility through
You're
your
the
organization.
constant life raft.
Yeah. So two things I'll do. First off, when that question comes to me, the first thing I do is there a policy that covers this, right, in my company? If it's yes, very simple. I just send them the policy. Say, this is covered in policy. Here it is. Please reread it. Boom. Send. And MetaPulse, my software system, allows me, the way I do that is you go into the policy of the MetaPulse system, you search for it, you find the policy, and then you go, give study assignment. You click that, you put in the person's post, and MetaPulse will send them the policy letter and say, you've got 14 days or 7 days to reread this. This is why you're being assigned this policy. and that person then has to attest that they've read it and they can apply it and they can do it and they get the job done, right?
Do you help, by the way, do you help small businesses with, let's say someone's not used to implementing, for as obvious as it seems to us, not used to implementing policies and procedures. Do you have something in place to help small business with that?
Create the policy?
Yes.
We have consultants that work with MetaPulse that do that. So we can definitely help with that. But the simplest way to think about policy, and one of the problems that I think entrepreneurs have with policy is they go, I'm not smart enough to write policy or whatever, right? Some of my policies that are in MetaPulse are this long. Like
just
maybe
how
a
to
paragraph.
do something.
Yeah. Like if a client says blah, this is how we respond. Or the dress code at Store Connect is blah if you're at home, or blah if you're in a meeting with a client.
But are you sitting there and thinking of all these different scenarios?
No.
It's as you go. It must be as you go.
You have to do it as you go. Because I'm not smart enough to think of everything. Like So I get that email. How do I do blah? If there's a policy, I send it. If there's not a policy, then I evaluate the communication from is this something that's likely to come up again in the future of my company? Yes or no?
This is fascinating.
Now, if it's a yes on that point, then I don't answer the email. What I do is I turn and go into MetaPulse and I quickly type up a policy, which is effectively an answer to the email.
Correct.
But not on the email's specific subject, but on the generality of what the email's dealing with, right? So not on that one client so I might write the policy. I might even put an example in there, which is this example, as this is how you use it. I finish that policy, and then I assign that a policy to the team chart of all my staff where it fits. So if it's a policy regarding the production area, then I assign it to the production area of my team chart. Then MetaPulse automatically sends the study order out to everyone in that division and makes sure that everyone studies it. And then I reply back to the person, please read the policy I just sent you.
What happens if they don't follow policy?
So then I assign them the policy study order again with a note.
Okay.
And if they still don't, I assign it again.
And
with a
MetaPulse
note.
is tracking this.
That's right.
So it's not, you don't have to think about it.
I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
So that's a really interesting thing. When people start with our company, we have a team drill. And it's a question and answer, simple question with a singular answer. So the trick with doing a drill like this is every question has to be unambiguous with a single clear answer. Like one of the questions is, what is the URL of our website? And they have to answer getstoreconnect.com, right? There's 150 questions like that all the way through. What happens if someone tries to bribe me for customer data? I report it to security and I follow this rule. Whatever those questions are, all the way through. And every time someone starts with our company, they twin up with another staff member and go through that drill until they can pass it without referring to the document. It can take 2 hours, 3 hours. But by the end of that, they know how to apply for leave. They know how to, find data. They know that they're expected to rock up to work. But one of the questions in the drill is there any policy that I have to follow? The answer is yes, right? That's the only thing they have to say, right? Where do I find the policy? In MetaPulse. What happens if I don't follow the policy? You'll be given a warning and asked to restudy the policy. What happens if I don't follow it again? You'll be given another warning and asked to follow the policy. What happens if I don't follow it a third time? You'll be asked to find another job. Right? And the person saying, the answer is, I'll be asked to find another job. Right? I have had people, staff members, email me and say, look, I'm really sorry. I just can't follow the policy. I'm resigning.
Really?
Yeah. More than once in 15 years.
Interesting.
And they've just come in and gone, look, I just can't do it. I'm really sorry, but I can't do it. I'm like, look, I really appreciate it. Thanks for your honesty. So it becomes self-selecting.
Right.
Because people are joining the company knowing that that's the expectation.
People are firing themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've literally had that. And on the flip side of that, for that, look, 2% of all the people you hire are going to be absolute vipers, right? They are just going to sneak through your whatever screening you've got. They'll be the best presenters in the world and they'll get in there and they'll just start destroying your company from the inside. You might not even notice it. But for those people, you will be able to find them by the fact that they continually come up as not having studied policy. So in MetaPulse, you can run a report of number of study assignments by person.
This is fascinating.
So what you can do is you just look at the report and suddenly you see that Joe has like 10, 20 study assignments. Everyone else has got 2. Okay, what's happening with Joe? Let's go have a look.
This is all automated.
It's all automated, yeah.
So I want to jump back there because this is very interesting. Jump back to my question from a couple minutes ago is for those entrepreneurs out there, what are the basics to get a business straightened out? Like they want to start a business. What do they need?
The fundamentals.
Yeah.
Fundamentals.
The first thing that I would do, well, look, the number one thing is figure out how to get sales. Like there is no financial difficulty that can't be solved by making more money. Okay, so that's like number one. If you're an entrepreneur and you don't have cash flow, you're dead. Doesn't matter how organized you are, how many policies you've written. If you're not getting sales in the front door, forget it. So that's by far number one. And you as the entrepreneur need to do the sales.
I think that's so interesting because I could imagine like, okay, I'm starting a company. I need to create an org chart. I need to make sure I'm the CEO. Okay, I need to have a strategy. I need to do
mental masturbation.
You literally, right?
Yeah.
But you haven't sold shit.
That's right. You have to start selling.
Because you have to put something in the pipeline.
You have to. Yeah, you have to get that money flowing. As soon as you've got some money flowing, I mean, really, if you're an entrepreneur, you're starting with one anyway, right? So what do you need an org chart? You've only got yourself. What are you going to do? Write orders to yourself? It's just, that's ridiculous. So if you're at that level and you've only got yourself, make sure the money's flowing, get an accountant to look after your books and start building your product, right? At some point, you're going to become overworked with production. The biggest mistake I see entrepreneurs make is they then start replacing the jobs they don't like. So they'll try and hire a salesperson, or they'll try and hire a business development rep, or whatever the job is that they hate the most. That's what they'll try and replace. That's the mistake.
I was already thinking that. I was like, okay.
But that's the mistake.
You know, what's funny is I like the sales part. Sales and PR and marketing is what I do.
Right.
But I'd want to replace all the operations, all the production lines.
That's generally the mistake, because at that point of your business, you usually don't have your production to a point where it's cookie cutter. Or you don't have your sales to a point where it's cookie cutter, right? So the thing that you hate doing in your own business is usually the thing that you haven't quite worked out yet.
Oh my God, he just told me what's wrong.
Do you see what I mean? So you in sales and marketing, you're like, oh, I got all this sales and marketing, that's fine, but I hate doing the actual artwork, right? Or whatever it is.
Right.
Well, that's because you have no policy around how to do that. And every time a job comes to you, you're going, how the hell do I do this? Okay, I'll make myself do it. And you somehow get it done. But until you can get that to a point where you're, actually, I enjoy this. You know, I've got guardrails around it. I know how to do it. I've got all the slide decks and everything I need. You can't hand it off to anyone.
Right.
Okay, but Michael, here's the thing. I do it better.
You will always do it better.
So now what?
So when you start, like in my business right now, you know, I'm doing all the USA sales and I'm getting up at sparrow's fart, we call it in Australia, to do those sales. That sucks. But if I try and put a salesperson on, it'll tank because we haven't quite worked out the exact formula of this many calls equals this many blasts. So anyone I put on, I can't measure their production because I don't quite know what it is yet. So there's no way to me to evaluate their performance. So if it goes badly, all I can do is commiserate with the salesperson about how bad it is. But I can't say you're not hitting expectations. Because, well, what were the expectations? You could never do it yourself. You know, so it's a bit like you will, when you put a team on underneath you to replace yourself, you will always have a reduction in statistics because
automatically.
They will almost uniformly never do it better than you.
So it's okay.
It's okay.
It's because that's the thing I worry about. It's like, well, I have to keep making the profits and I have to keep making the...
And you do. Yeah.
But that's just part of the transition.
That's part of the transition because once you get one team on, then you can get another team on. And two teams of people doing what you were doing is going to be more than what you were doing, right? So as you start adding more people, that's how an organization becomes massive. But you can only add people into an organization efficiently if you have policy covering what it is you're doing.
So is that when you know you're ready to transition? Once you've completed the policy for, you know, that department?
I don't know if you've completed the policy, but can you write down exactly what's needed for that department to succeed? Can you write effectively a little book, you know, maybe 5 pages of text that says if you do A, B, C, D, you will achieve what I want from you in that job, right? Now, you might not have to write every aspect of that job. if you get a salesperson, you should expect that they know how to have a conversation and,
Sure.
like all the basics of that role. But you need to be able to, delineate and draw out what is it about sales in this business that is unique, that you need to understand in order to succeed.
So would you say, okay, Michael, true or false? A successful entrepreneur has the ability to create or manage people?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, no, true. Yeah, it has to be. And part of your job as an entrepreneur is replacing yourself out of each role. And ideally with people that are better than you. That's also a bit scary for an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
It's like, this is my baby.
well.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
you don't want them to know.
That they're better than you.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And it is challenging because hiring someone better than you at something is inherently really, really hard because you don't have a datum of comparable magnitude to work out if they're better than you or not. Like it's hard to look at someone and go, they're better than me at this, when you've only had 3 interviews with them or something like that. So what are the traits you're looking for and that sort of thing? So that's really hard. A lot of really good advice out there is hire slow and fire fast.
Yeah.
That's really critical. We've just moved to a new model in Store Connect where we hire people as contractors, even if they're coming in as a full-time role. You come on as a contractor with a higher pay, but it's for 3 months.
It's interesting you say that because in some of the real estate that I've been involved in, I've exclusively done it on a contract basis so that I'm not wholly committed to this individual as an employee. From like creating of like funds on the management end of real estate. Yeah, there's been a lot of like contracting for sure.
I really do believe in hiring people long term and building them into the business and having them not as contractors. What I'm saying for what we do is when you first hire someone, you're dating them, right? You don't know if you really want to take this to a long-term thing.
They're on probation.
They're on probation, right? But hiring them as a full-time employee where they're starting to accrue benefits and leave and all this sort of stuff, especially in countries like Australia where the laws are very, very different. It's not right to work sort of stuff. It's if I fire someone without due cause, I can be sued and all sorts of things. Very, very strict on that, which is, fair. We also want to protect the employee pool of the country, but we hire them now on a contractor basis. So they get paid a lot more than they would as a full-time employee, but they don't accrue any benefits. And then after that honeymoon period, they can say yay or nay, and we can say yay or nay, and there's no hard feelings. They've been paid well for that short-term engagement. They can even put it on their resume as a 3-month contracting period with blah, blah, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't become a negative that they only worked there for 3 months as a full-time employee.
But it's very clear to them that the possibility is to take on full-time.
Basically, the discussion goes, we will hire you as a contractor and you will work for us for 3 months. And at the end of 3 months, we will all have a discussion about whether or not we want to take you on as a full-time employee.
Got it.
And if you do it that way, the default is they're not working for you anymore after 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, probably the hardest thing that I do as an entrepreneur is firing people, by far.
Mm-hmm.
All the jobs that I hate the most, the number one is firing people.
It seems like, though, that you have things very detailed and structured. So have you found throughout the years that you're firing less?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I've had to lay people off due to production,
Sure.
like slumps in one of my tech companies. People are all vibe coding and they don't think they need developers anymore, and that's just going to end in absolute tears. But anyway, that's fine. It's just resulted in a downturn and we've had to restructure and stuff. That sucks. But it's very rare now that we fire for cause. Like very, very, I can't remember, 8 years ago, maybe 1. But still, it sucks. And that person we actually managed out of the company. We didn't actually fire them. They came to us and said, well, we can't follow the policy. I'm leaving. I'm like, sad to see you go.
Yeah, exactly. I'd love to sort of, if you could summarize for us a bit of what it takes to be an entrepreneur and in what we've talked about. How could you do that? Sort of some of the things we've touched on as far as sales first, like yes, grit, yes, persistence, sales first. You got to get stuff in the pipeline. then you start to get into org
Structure.
charting,
Yep.
structure. Then you get into policy writing.
So if you've got your sales under control, you've got some things coming in, it's looking like you want to build a business. Good. Now look at the organization and go, what can I hand off to somebody else with a little bit of training? And replace that first. What's the thing that's going to free up most of your time? And usually that's going to be in the production area of your company, right? Because what you're doing is putting block A with block B and producing C and delivering that to somebody. So you can check the result of that much more easily. So get that person hired, get them on, write some policy. When to write policy? My rule basically is I try and write a policy a week in the company. Just find an area that's got some confusion, write a policy around that to clarify it. Or whenever I get an email from somebody who's asking me to explain how to do their job, instead of replying in that email, which then gets lost, like it goes to that person, they might learn, but what about the next person you need to hire, right? So instead of replying to that email, just write a policy. And that's the easiest way to write policy, right? And the other thing to remember about policy is it doesn't have to be sacrosanct. Like, you don't have to be perfect when you write it. You just have to be better than bad,
Yeah.
right? So you just need it so that it's at least something. And you might need to change it in 6 months. That's fine. But treat it that way. We're just trying to build this thing. Then start structuring your organization. Work out in terms of org charts and team charts and super charts and whatever charts. The simplest thing to do on that is have a look at the flow of your organization. So how do people come in? How do they come through? Where do they need to go? And then you can structure your organizing chart around that. If people want a simple way to do that, True Team, the book that I wrote, goes over this. Very simple. You can
Is
get
it
it
on Amazon?
Yeah. It's on everywhere.
True Team.
True Team. It's actually an acronym.
Mikel Lindsaar.
Yep. It's actually an acronym of truly radical, unrelenting enterprise of totally enabled, aligned members.
Yeah.
So, bam, mic drop. So yeah, that will walk you through those steps. I think the number one thing about what though it takes to become a successful entrepreneur is, are you trying to solve something that you have almost a duty to solve? Like, whoever's watching this, do not become an entrepreneur for money. You will fail, because money is the lowest reason why you would do anything. Or maybe not the lowest. Lowest is probably fear, is below that. Do this or I'll kill you. The next one up from that is do this and I'll pay you. The next one up from that is do this and you might feel a bit better. And the next one up from this is like, do this and you'll feel like you've made a contribution to society. And the top one would be do this because you have a duty to do it, right?
Where does passion fall into that?
Duty.
Yeah.
Like when you see something as an entrepreneur that pisses you off so much that you're like, that annoys me that it's that way. And I know that I could build a business that fixes that.
I think part of that is when you find people that you're connected with, your friends, family, because those are the first people you're seeing. You're seeing a real problem, like a true pain point that they're constantly looking for a solution. And you go, that person just brought that up. That person brought it up too. And then you're drawn to it.
And I think this is again, that survivor bias thing or success bias. People see like 20-year-old entrepreneurs suddenly running billion-dollar companies. That's all lottery numbers. Like, that's 1 in a billion chance. That's not a way to become an entrepreneur.
You see it on social media because it's a big enough lottery.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, and the sample size is so massive that one person that made it suddenly becomes, well, this is how you do it. The best way to become an entrepreneur is find an area that you're good at, that you're passionate about, get into it, go work for a company that does it, get a real huge amount of domain knowledge around that problem domain, and then you will find the connecting pieces that no one else has plugged together, identify that gap, keep your current job, start building that gap, and then let it outgrow, get that to the sales where it's now paying you more than your job, and then move over into it.
I'm a huge advocate for learning from the best, learning from experience. Not so much going to university and getting a degree. We've talked about that on this podcast before. What do you say to that notion of you don't necessarily need to go to a university, but go and find the company that you can work for or the mentor that you can work for.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I went to university. I dropped out 6 months before the end of a 4-year degree program because I found my job and I got rolling. And to this day, I still haven't finished it. Maybe one day they'll just award me a degree. But I think going to university teaches you the technical aspects of certain job functions. So I'll give you a fantastic example of this. What's the one subject that every business school in America does not teach? Every business school, like we're talking MIT, Harvard, the one subject.
God, that's a good question. Got me stumped.
Sales.
Wow.
Isn't that truly mind-blowing?
Because it's the
They'll
first
teach, they'll teach marketing, they'll teach PR, they'll teach all of these stuff.
finance.
No one teaches sales. Why? Because it's the only one that you can truly measure on performance. Now, Harvard and these guys were doing a sales course, but all their sales graduates couldn't sell, right? And it's all like in metrics. It's like they can't sell. Why? So then it became, well, Harvard aren't training them well. And it became such a bad PR point that they canceled the whole program. So this is what I'm talking about with universities. So don't go to university to become an entrepreneur. That you're not going to get there. Go to university if you want to learn, if you want to be an entrepreneur, say in biotech or something, go learn and be a chemist at university. Like get that underlying technical training so that later in life, the chemists can't bullshit you about whether or not something could be done, right? So you get the academic knowledge, the technical knowledge. Doing university or doing trade schools or whatever is fantastic for young kids. I mean, you should be doing that. You should get competence in something.
It's like the guy that I bet the plumber, he was a plumber and he got technically trained as a plumber, but then he built a business to sell plumbing equipment.
Exactly.
And he became a 100 millionaire.
Exactly.
Right?
Because he knew what the problems plumbers were having.
Yeah.
So he experienced it from his client's side. And that's where, and while you're doing that, you find the thing that you go, there it is. I've been looking for 4 years. Now I found it. It's this plus, it's aspirin pills in pink dresses served by elephants. And no one has that. And that's going to be the solution to the market. And suddenly you've got your idea, you've got your passion. Now start building it. You have to start with that passion / duty.
Michael,
duty better.
Is it realistic for, like, I'll tell you a funny quick story. My first year of university, take this business class and I'm listening to the professor. And after class, I asked him this question: how many businesses have you, actually engaged in and been successful at? And kind of just gave me this like odd look. Like,
why would I?
What kind of question is that? No, I'm a professor. And I'm like, gotcha. So you've never actually built a business? And his response was, well, no, but I'm a professor. Got it. And I literally walked out. And I'm trying to have these conversations with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, listen, if you really want to learn something, you want to be working with those that have actually done it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I'm so disenchanted with the idea of going to university. So, but here's the question. The reality is, could someone approach you, a young student today, could they approach you and say, I want to come work with you. I want to learn from someone who obviously, you're successful. You've built these companies. You have real life experience. Can they approach you and say, I want to learn from you. I want to work for you for nothing and just learn?
Well, in Australia, that's illegal, which sucks.
I wonder why.
Wow.
Yeah. So
isn't that something else?
Like apprenticeships and mentorships are like frowned upon, somehow stopped.
No, they're illegal. Like
Wow.
I can't hire someone for under market. I can't have someone work for me for under market wage, right? So I have to have something that I can pay you a wage on. So that's one barrier. The second one, I mean, sure, anyone can email me. I can't remember the last time anyone's ever approached me, which is also a little bit crazy, right? I've had the occasional, hey, I'm from some random African country. I'd love to learn about what you do. And I say, sure, first off, go watch all of my podcasts and then come back to me. Yeah. That would be, you got to put some skin in the game if you want me to invest time into you, right?
Totally.
But yes, absolutely. I think it sort of comes back to my first point. I would also sort of look at that and go, instead of trying to work for someone for free, sure, if you can support yourself, fine. Just get a job with them. Like if they're in a business that you really admire and you want to be able to do what they're doing, they would have started doing the job, right? That's their life experience would have led them to the point where they're running the company. They weren't running the company when they came out of the womb. You know, they would have been, if they're in a marketing company, they would have started doing visual editing or something. Like they would have, you have to have this basic technical knowledge. You know, to this day, one of the other things that I've done is I've written software that's been downloaded, I think, 690 million times, like open source software.
Okay.
Everyone watching this podcast, you would have used my software. You just don't know it. It powers email of about, I don't know, 15% of the internet. So I did that and just built it and gave it away for free. But that also means that if anyone in my company, if my developers, my software developers, and all of my businesses are software, if I need to, I can go and dive into the code and work out what's wrong or come up with my own evaluation because I've done it. So if someone comes to me and say, hey, I want to be a software entrepreneur, I'm like, well, can you code? No. Well, then you'll never become a software entrepreneur. Go learn. Go learn to code.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not that they can never, but again, we're talking about lottery number winners. You know, Frank, who has never learned to code, Steve Ballmer, who never learned to code, managed to team up with Bill Gates and what's his name, or Steve Jobs, who teamed up with Wozniak, right?
Yeah.
So you can form a partnership where you both bring something to the game and then expand. That does work sometimes. And sometimes, frankly, it's better because now you've got someone to actually talk to as well. But, you know, you as Steve Jobs by himself would never have started Apple. Right? Bill Gates by himself would never have gotten Microsoft off the ground, even though they were brilliant people. It's just, you know, that's the thing. You need to either in yourself be, I think the terms are polymath, like being really good at multiple areas. Either bring that to the table yourself, or your pair of founders or trio of founders bring all of that to the table. Because you as that executive team, be it a singular person, 2 people, 3 people, don't go above 3, will have to do all of those functions until you're profitable enough where you can pay someone to do those functions.
Yeah. This has been fantastic to have you on and discuss this. I think these are entrepreneurial rules, tools, nuggets that is just fantastic for our audience. So thank you very much. I wanted to hit you with some final questions just to get, you know, we'll ask this of our guests. A book that stands out to you that everybody should take a look at.
Questions without notice, Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm currently reading Oversubscribed. That's quite good. That really approaches a viewpoint of there is no such thing as a market. There are just people that want to buy your thing, which is a great way to think about it. So as long as your demand for your product exceeds the supply that you're able to do, you'll be successful. And it just shifts the whole thing from how do I get this, you know, $10 million TAM or $10 billion TAM to buy my product to how do I get 1,000 people to buy my product? Because that's actually all I need. And the rest will take care of itself. So really good book. I'd highly recommend that.
TAM?
Total addressable market. So it's
total addressable market.
Total possible size. If your company owned 100% of the market and there were no competitors, how much revenue would you make a year?
Well, I love the 1,000 raving fans too, because that's what
that's
Jim,
another
was
one.
It Kelly? Was his name?
Yeah, I can't remember.
But he wrote that.
Yeah.
It was an essay.
That's for a content creator.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need 1,000 true fans as a content creator or a artisan or something like this. This Oversubscribed doesn't say 1,000. What it says is more than your official capacity to produce. So, you know, if you're building houses, you might only be able to build 1 house a month. Your official capacity of 12 is therefore 12 per year, right? If you can only do 1 a month without, you know, massive expansion, that's what your capacity is. So then you need to make sure you have at least 24 to 36 people that want to buy your houses, because that's what drives the price. You know, the price isn't driven by some magical market god. It's driven by how much you want to pay for my product. And if you want my product more than he wants my product, then the price is going to go up. Because I can say to you, well, he said $100. You go, well, I'll give you 110. Okay, fine. He said 110. I'll give you 120. Okay. Now you've got a bidding war. You only need 2 clients to make a bidding war. And it's a really interesting viewpoint. It's been something that I've struggled with actually as an entrepreneur is how do you generate a funnel and a pipeline? Oh my God. No one knows that stuff. I've read an awful lot of books on that and just starting to figure it out. So, yeah.
So the latest book is Oversubscribed.
Oversubscribed is what I'm currently reading. Very,
Awesome.
very good.
What would you say is not necessarily successful, but the most satisfying business that you've built?
MetaPulse. Because I'm doing it as a duty point. Like MetaPulse is my baby. So Store Connect will end up selling or go public or something. Reinteractive will sell or get acquired or something will happen with that. MetaPulse I'm going to keep for life. And one of the reasons why I'm building all these other businesses is so that I can be my own venture capitalist into MetaPulse. So once I sell off all these other businesses, I plan to just go, hey, MetaPulse, here's $30 million. Let's take over the world, and just expand it massively. So I'll take that one to my deathbed.
Love it.
It might even end up being a foundation by the time I die and continue to be a nonprofit and just expand and just help companies around the world and entrepreneurs just grow their businesses.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. Favorite movie?
Whoa. When I was young, I would have said Matrix. I saw that 4 times in the cinema. That was just amazing. That was so mind-blowing at the time. Currently, loved the Mission Impossible series. The latest stuff from Tom is just, the guy's a machine. Favorite movie of all time? Oh, I don't know. Probably I love Rogue One and Star Wars.
You're a Star Wars geek.
I do like my Star Wars, yeah. I mean, Empire, obviously the best one, but Rogue One's a very close second. But yeah.
So Empire Strikes Back
is the best Star Wars. I mean,
is the best.
No one can argue that. If you think anything else, you're wrong, obviously. I mean, that's just true. Empire, by far, Empire, then Hope, then maybe Jedi, but Rogue One is right up there. Rogue One's brilliant.
Nice.
What does downtime look for Michael?
When Formula One, so that's my guilty pleasure. I will watch every Formula One race. I have actually, because it's hard to watch good Formula One commentary in the US, so I actually set up a VPN back to Australia so I could watch good Formula One commentary feed. It wasn't for security or anything. It was just so I could watch Formula One. It's not quite true, but so I watch all my Formula One. Love that. I'll watch maybe a TV series with my wife. Maybe once a week, we might watch a TV show or a movie. Okay. But my downtime is otherwise playing with my daughter, cooking for my daughter, getting breakfast for my daughter, chatting with my wife, going for a walk, having lunch, that sort of thing.
Awesome.
Formula One is fantastic. Jannik Sinner, a pro tennis player that we watch, he's at the US Open right now. He says that Formula One is like his whole family.
Formula One is freaking insane. And it's not, I mean, aside from the fact that the companies, like the Mercedes Formula One team has 1,000 staff. Like, you just think with this, it's $1 billion business, one team. So there's 10 teams on the grid.
That's crazy.
Right? But the thing about Formula One is you have 20 cars. Next year it'll be 22. You have 20 cars from 10 manufacturers with 20 different drivers doing laps of a 1.2 minute or 120 minute track. So an 80-second, 90-second track. And all 20 cars will do that lap within 0.06 of a second or, 0.6 of a second. It's like, it's mind-blowing.
How tight it is.
How tight it is.
Yeah, I saw the F1 movie. It was phenomenal.
Is the difference between first and fifth. It's like, it is really that. And, you do a pit stop and they're working out, how do we shave 50 milliseconds off our pit stop time? Because that's going to be the difference between winning and losing the race. It's like, it is utterly insane, the precision. And what I love about Formula One is it's both a team sport and an individual sport at the same time. So the driver can totally ruin the race, but so can the team. And neither the driver nor the team can individually win the race. They both have to win the race at the same time, at the same point, with all the Anyway, it's nuts.
Who's your favorite driver?
It has to be Oscar Piastri at the moment. He's the Australian. Before that was Daniel Ricciardo, because he was just a larrikin. A larrikin for your US audience is just a crazy Australian who just doesn't give a shit. He's just great. He was hilarious. But Oscar Piastri is fantastic. Oscar, if you're watching, good job, mate.
Nice.
That would make sense. He could watch the Eighth Gear podcast. That would
He
make
totally
sense.
could.
100%.
But it's that attitude is like the Brad Pitt character in the F1 movie.
Yeah, the larrikin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the larrikin.
It's I actually haven't watched the F1 movie.
Yeah, you should watch it.
I'm a little afraid to. Because it's sort of like
disappointed, or
yeah, it's it's Star Wars is interesting because I'm an absolute technology geek, and if I watch a space movie that's like The Martian, for example, fantastic movie, but I keep noticing the technical errors. No, that wrench wouldn't fly through the air like that because he's in 0G or he's under partial gravity. So, like that will just knock me out of the moment and I can't, it just annoys me. Star Wars is a bit different because it basically, in the Star Wars universe, it just suspends all reality. There's no such thing as gravity. There are wizards running around with light swords and, whatever, right? So you don't have to go into disbelief. The F1 movie, I think, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to but what? No. That doesn't happen.
They tried very hard to make it for the F1 community.
Yeah.
So,
but a lot of the F1 drivers saw it in the press conferences afterwards. It was really funny.
I really want Michael to see it because
I'm going to have to watch it now. But I just haven't gotten there yet. I will.
Unbiased opinion.
You'll have to let us know. Well, awesome. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Man, it's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Thanks for being with us at the 8th Gear Podcast. If you like the episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that notifications button. See you next time.
See you, everyone.